Alrighty. Well, here we are. Everybody's safe and sound. And not shitty.
Hooray.
Uh-huh. Well, good to go. Perfect.
Welcome back, everyone.
I know. Yeah, it's been a... Well, yeah, literally. And figuratively. But yeah, it's been a crazy 2 weeks. Like, out of nowhere, too, it seems. Like, I definitely wasn't expecting this last 2 weeks to feel as heavy as it did, but yeah. Just some personal stuff, you know? Like, ball and chain kind of personal stuff, so... Not like ball and chain personal stuff, but, you know, like, stuff that, like, feels like that carrying around, so...
That is heavy.
Yes, very heavy.
Yeah.
Mairead, I'm having a little trouble hearing you today.
Can you hear me better now?
Well, yes. I can.
I'll try and lean in a little bit more.
I compressed the microphone a little bit more because I've been keeping like the window open a little bit more too. So I just didn't want the ambient sound from outside getting in, but
I noticed that we both sound really weird in my headphones, so that might be it too.
Is that just you know how everybody hates listening to themselves?
Could be that.
I also did that because I need to actually monitor my own voice in my ears. So I turned that on. I can turn it off though. You want to see?
No.
Yeah. Yes, you do.
Anyway, I'm glad to see you both.
Glad to see you too. I missed you.
Yes, I miss you very much. We're sending you love every day.
Wait, turn us back
Same.
on.
I got my second vaccine this past week, and I was laid out for a couple days just feeling super gross, but now I feel excited about the future and getting to travel again and visit you all in Boston sometime, and it's on my list.
Yes, please.
So
it'll be curious because there's still this I don't know, this dread of like, are things gonna go back to normal, quote unquote, like around the April, May, June time period whenever we're supposed to be getting this shot, right? Or that's like when it's available to the general public. So
well, the thing is I don't think things are going to go back to normal
Yeah.
for much longer than that.
Right.
It's going to take a while for all of that stuff to be implemented, and even afterwards, we're going to have to still be careful with distancing and masking up and all that for a little while. It's just, this is like the first light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
You know, this
Agreed.
isn't the end of the tunnel, but it's to me kind of like that first light.
Another layer of protection.
Yes. So, and I was super glad to get the vaccine because I know I have close friends who can't get it, not because it's not available to them, but because they just, their bodies can't take on the vaccine. And so if I can do it, and I would rather do it than risk them getting COVID, you know? So
Yeah, it's true. It was funny because we were just talking to her. It was your cousin's 16th birthday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're at her cousin's 16th birthday, and her granddad was talking about how, kind of like that, we're gonna have to like still maintain pretty much social distancing and masking for like a while, so things will be like normal for a while. But I mean,
he was even going
we can
farther.
bring down the cases.
Yeah, he was even going farther to say like, will COVID ever actually go away? Probably not. But
Depends on
yeah,
how responsive people are to taking the vaccine and that sort of thing. I mean, we've had several diseases in our history that did go away entirely once vaccines were implemented, but just depends.
yeah.
The other thing I was thinking about recently was, you know, these vaccines are only available to people who are 18 and older. And so, I don't know, I feel even more like duty to get this vaccine to protect these kids, you know? we don't know much about the long-term effects of having COVID, and I would rather protect kids from ever getting it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's, yeah.
Even just like the loss of senses, like the loss of taste and smell. Like, I've had friends and family that had COVID and it's been months. And they're completely fine otherwise, but they still can't taste their food, and that's not normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So hopefully, this will start getting administered to more and more people, and that people will do their research and hopefully find that they feel comfortable getting this vaccine, because it's almost like a public service too. It's not just like a self-protection thing.
Which is so crazy. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know. It's just like the only thing is, of course, I agree with all that, but it's like, at what point? I mean, because we can talk about get it for other people too, but I mean, that's the same thing with wearing masks as well. That was like the hardest thing, is that people didn't want to. They thought it was like an infringement on their rights, or whatever. And there's still like a lot of people who are very, very. That's a line in the sand for them. Like, still.
I get that. I think one of the things that you wanted to talk about recently was like, how do we bridge this gap between people who have such extremely different beliefs, and sometimes that's political party, but sometimes it's not. And I think this is a good example of it, because I don't think those people that where that line in the sand exists for, I don't think those people will change until someone they love is affected. Right. And then they'll change. But that's true of, I think, many things, especially many political things. People have a really hard time changing their beliefs or their values or whatever, or coming to compromise, unless they or someone they love is affected. And
it's like certain things sound so unjust or wrong that you're like, that definitely doesn't happen, until your friend that's a woman goes, hey, look at my salary, that's like fucking half of yours. Hey, look at my like black neighbor whose house was appraised for $70,000 less. And it's like, oh, there we go. Now I can see it in action, and now it means something, which sucks that it
Well, and it's not just seeing it in action, it's caring about those people. So the neighbor, if they don't like their neighbor, or they don't talk to their neighbor, they still won't change their mind, even given the like concrete facts. You really have to have a personal connection with these things. And actually, so in my last post that I just made, I don't know if you all have had a chance to read it yet or anything, I was talking about how for me, I have a really easy time feeling actual empathy for people, because I've had a lot of different experiences, and then also because I can draw connections between things that aren't exactly the same to find empathy. So when I don't feel empathy for someone or a certain situation, it really surprises me, because usually it's really easy for me. So I've been thinking a lot lately about how there are lots of people where that is not surprising to them. That's their like standard.
That's their modus operandi. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's how they operate. And it's not even like a hateful or mean thing at all. It's just not it. They don't have the experiences or perspective or relationships that have made these issues meaningful or important to them, like in that way.
Yeah,
and so
that ties into a lot too. I mean, some of it. I mean, I think a lot of it is just how you're socialized in this country. I think that's probably like one of the biggest takeaways from this last year, is that like where you are and how you are socialized in this country. I mean, it says way more than it doesn't at this point.
Tell me more about what you mean by that. Do you mean by like the place you grew up, the people you were raised by? Like what? Tell me just more what you're thinking.
Not so much like maybe not so much who you, well, I mean, yeah, I mean a little bit who you were raised by, but yeah, like geographically where you are too. I mean, it all ties into the Okay, hold on, let me rewind a little bit. So I was getting into, not getting into, but there was a we just watched something that was about this, about redlining, wasn't it? Was that, did I watch that with you?
Was that part of the amend
Yeah, the Netflix
documentary?
series. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I guess I should mention that there's a Netflix documentary that Will Smith, I think, is in called
He's like the narrator. It's
yeah
called Amend.
Amend. Yeah, where they're talking about the 14th Amendment, I think, or they started talking about the 14th Amendment. So oh, I remember now. So MSNBC, or there's like a lot of different news sources are starting to do like cover more of these stories that a lot of these like hot button political takes were on, um, because it's like a meme that like, oh, like what was the left gonna do after Trump was gone? Like what news are they gonna have to espouse or whatever? I'm just like, just wait. There's plenty. There's plenty. Um, and one of them was
Things
like,
didn't stop being wrong.
exactly. I was just like, oh yeah, okay. He's just gonna be like over there more, hopefully. I still want to know what that motherfucker's doing. I just don't want to know what that motherfucker's doing every second of every day.
I don't.
While he's the leader of our freaking country. Anyway, crap, what was I saying?
Talking about amend, I was asking about, you were talking about redlining.
Oh yeah. So they just started like covering that like almost in more detail, but it was curious because there's been information on this stuff for decades. I mean, it's literal federal guidelines, housing guidelines that were racist, like from the top down, and it is the key to the racial equity gap today, and it's empirical. I mean, there's so much data to back it up. You cannot argue against it.
People have such a hard time though accepting data, like
Exactly.
because if they didn't see it, if they didn't experience it, like I said. So I mean, even I don't know, you can tell someone that this happened, you can say this is how many people it affected, you can do all that, but unless it like
Yes, that becomes like
unless
a
they,
priority. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Unless you care about
they
those
have to
people,
feel
like you were
invested in
saying. Yep. Mm-hmm. Unless you care about those people, or you have skin in the game, like you were saying. Why? I mean, why change? I mean, that's why at the end of the day, like I really do think like conservative thought is just such brain rot, and like I don't know, hurts my soul. But
I mean, I don't think I don't know that it's fair necessarily to label it as conservative thought.
mm,
Like I'm sure it applies to many, but I'm not sure that's really that accurate. Like,
100% all the way, probably not.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So, because I think there are a lot of people who are conservative who, um, they're conservative more because of fiscal reasons, honestly, and the social reasons just aren't a priority for them because again, it's not affecting them, not because they have like hateful thoughts, you know.
Right.
Or so, which doesn't make it okay, honestly, and especially in my opinion, I don't think that makes it okay, but I do think it gives us more to work with, actually, if you remind yourself that it's not coming from a hateful place. We need to find ways to make it meaningful, like to have people who aren't affected feel affected or feel connected to
Right.
these issues.
Right. And it may not come from a hurtful place, but it does come from generally, like it does come from like a standoffish, moderate place. I mean, I could probably put that too. I mean, you can be fiscally, I don't know.
I mean, it's a self-centered place. I'm just saying it's not. Like I said, I'm just saying you can like. There's more opportunity there than hitting a brick wall. That.
Right. Well, the only thing is too is that if you have a group of people who are resistant to data or like empirical data, and that's the way to make them see, even giving them like a lived experience, that does not do it for them sometimes too. So it's just like I don't know, like at least in my head anymore, like I don't know any other ways to make people feel something or like it, affect them if it's not going to affect them at all or ever, because that's kind of the,
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the point. Like once you, in America, like once you have comfortably made it, you should be like, you should have comfortably made it, you know? So, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. One of my favorite quotes is it's by Ben Franklin, and it says, "Nothing will change unless those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are affected."
Mm-hmm.
And it's so true. I mean, like, I don't know, even think about LGBTQ rights in America. Clearly, that's not the majority of American population,
Right.
you know? So I'm curious about how, I don't know.
To me, it's like the same phenomenon. It's like the same phenomenon that we had like during BLM, where it was at a certain point, at least in my head, where like the quote unquote like the deadliest opponents were just the opponents that I could like no longer see, you know? Kind of like tying this back into labels a little bit. Like I definitely have a soldier's mentality about this. Like if I have a uniform on and then you have the enemy uniform on, I know like who the heck I'm fighting. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, just to like, I don't know, because I feel like I need to hit this point again because I didn't quite say it right. Like the quiet, I don't know, I guess like the quiet conservative mindset is what bothers me. Like, because you said a lot of conservative mindset is fiscal, like fiscally related. And so, but that usually ties into like a lot of society too, and like where you're at, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like how do
No,
you make?
yeah,
It's
that's
also
true.
like it's also how do you make them feel it socially? But then it's just like, but you should be feeling this socially, especially if you're feeling it fiscally. I mean, this is America. If you're feeling it fiscally, you're feeling it everywhere. You know. I mean, I don't know.
No, I see what you're saying, and I'm not trying to make an excuse for anyone because I don't think I think that's just a way for people to kind of like not take any responsibility
In what
for
way?
the privilege that they have.
Mm.
Like like people who do hang on so tightly to the like fiscal conservatism, whatever. Um, it's so I think it is a little bit of trying to wash their hands of any responsibility towards the social issues.
Oh.
Really. So yeah, see what I mean?
Yeah, like they're
So really, all I
almost
was
like they're
saying,
graduating. They're just like, you know what? I'm done with this, and they don't feel bad about it anymore. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
I don't have to feel bad about this because I'm not hateful.
Right.
So I'm not saying personally. I'm not saying that it's a free pass for them. All that I'm saying is that if we want to try to find some middle ground with people, I think it's more possible with that group than it maybe appears on paper.
Mm.
We just have to like figure out what that common ground is.
Right.
So
Well, maybe we'll get
it's
there one
hard.
day. Yeah, it is really difficult. I mean, that's another reason too is that it's hard to. I mean, you said the earlier that you saw like the light in the tunnel because of the vaccine. It is hard to kind of see, for me at least, because I'm very good at like getting into like detail oriented things and like working out details and stuff. But then like sometimes I'll get like lost and be like, wait, why was I working on this again? You know? And so it's just like I don't know, I guess in the miasma of like all this thought, it's just like
Can confirm.
yeah. Can't confirm. Exactly. So for me, like basically everything you just said about like the vaccine a little earlier ago, where it's just like, yeah, we do this even at like a baseline. I mean, even when we first heard of everything, we did it literally because for other people. Like we were just out of the military, like we weren't sick. Like there's very, very small chance, that we were, but we immediately wore masks for everyone else like around us. But that was like from our purview of keeping everyone around us safe.
That's also us coming from Japan, where people are just considerate of others, even if they're strangers.
Right.
You know, that's just
Yeah.
the culture.
But so for me, like in my head, that's as hard of a line, right, as someone who doesn't want to wear the mask. So it's just like but there, like, and also like you were saying, there isn't any coming to an agreement like with that. It's almost like there's no middle ground anymore. There's just like no man's land. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, yes, I do. Maybe I'm just an optimist. I don't know. I just think it's there. It's just harder to find.
I
and
think
so
I think it's there, but maybe it's not bipartisan. You know, maybe it's not bipartisan. Maybe the middle ground is like.
Well, I don't think it shouldn't be. I mean, it's not political. Like finding the common ground it's outside of politics. Like if I run into someone at the gas,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Like if I run into someone at the gas station who I've never met before, and like they drop all their shit on the ground, I'm gonna help them pick it up because we have the common ground of, hey, that's a hard situation. No one wants to go through that. It's like you don't want all the stuff to fly away. Like you just help them. That's just what you do. And I don't know anything about their politics.
Right.
You know?
So maybe that is the key then, is just shifting the focus away from like, I mean, because I can sit here and beat up myself about politics all day. So maybe it's like shifting the focus from politics to more just like, tired of that.
Humanity and basic decency.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Each other. Which we can.
The thing that's hard though is that
but I'm not forgetting this time. No.
No. Well, and the other thing that's really tough about that is that some people then have their own things where they don't view identity as politics. It shouldn't really be in the first place, but it is. And so then, you know, maybe the wrong person tries to help them and then they like say, no, get away. I can do this by myself. You know, like, I don't know. It is hard. There are outliers for all of it. But I think in general, if you kind of like zoom, so you were talking about your telescope, about how you think and everything.
Mm-hmm.
If you zoom out and then you just narrow in until you get as close, like you find that thing that you can't agree on and then go backwards one. And then hang out in that territory and don't keep going.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. So then going back to like your labels then, how does that tie into like, because some people do, I mean, they just completely rejected any politics, which is, I mean, honestly, like, I think that's fine, you know, because there's a lot of other things that, you know, besides identity that ties into politics. But for like labels and stuff like that, how does that tie into what you feel about labels and identity and all that?
Well, I feel like people think that's fine when their identity is something that's already completely accepted by society.
Or that's known, maybe?
Everything's already been known. I don't think that's the issue. I think it's the acceptance within society. So when you have a non-binary person or someone like that, like, you can say, oh, this isn't political, but they're still going to get harassed or lose a job because they're like, hey, can you just use they, them pronouns? And their bosses are like, no, that's not proper grammar or some shit like that, you know? So it should be devoid of politics, but until all
identities are equally protected.
Yeah. Equally protected
and not just
law.
protected, but accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is utopian. That's unlikely to ever really come to fruition.
Yeah, exactly. Because I don't think you can. I mean, you can change the law all you want, but I don't think that changes culture. You know, there's no way that shifts culture. I think it should, but I don't know. In this case, I mean, how?
I think it's a step. It's a step. Think about like don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah.
Think about the culture for like people who were gay in the military prior to that law changing, and then they changed the law and now it's a protected category. Of course the culture has changed. It's so much more open now. I'm not saying it's 100% open, but without that rule being changed or that law being changed, it wouldn't have ever gotten where it is now.
Yep.
And so I get really annoyed actually because I'm not annoyed at you, but I've heard other people saying that recently, other leaders saying it like, oh, changing the rule or changing the law isn't going to change anything about people's thoughts. And it's like, maybe not the ones who exist right now, but the ones who exist in the future, probably. And change is gradual. It's not going to all happen overnight. I'd rather take every little tiny step that I can now and hope that it pays off for everyone after me.
Right. I agree with that. My only thing was that I didn't cuz I was thinking about when I said that I was thinking about all those executive orders that just had to get pushed. And I'm just worried because those flip-flop so much. Like we just had LGBTQ rights that were like there then taken away again. And now they're again, I think, right? Didn't that happen like yesterday where he signed something and was like, "Yay." It was like the it was something act, the something act.
I'm not sure.
Oh, I forget what it was called. But
Let me look.
yeah, I'm not. That's my only thing is that I don't understand how.
How do you get it out of the how do you get it out of policy? Like be finished making changes?
Exactly. Because then it can start to affect the culture, but it has to be permanent. Like it has to be permanent. You know what I'm saying? It can't just be like, oh, this is the law now. Oh no, it's not. We're just gonna take away all these protections, and now it is again because it'll never sink in if it's constantly just if it's never accepted all the way. You know, even in the law.
You know what? You know what's changed that historically?
What?
Amendments.
Yeah.
To the Constitution.
Yeah, I mean that's what they're trying to do is put the LGBTQ rights in the same amendment as, right?
So the executive order was a little over a month ago, and it was just to prevent and combat discrimination on the basis of gender identity and sexual orientation. Which, like, how did we not fucking have that before? Or was it erased by Trump?
That
yeah,
is what happened.
I think he like swept that under the or like he started erasing that as soon as he started like losing. Pretty sure because he like eliminated a lot of LGBTQ rights like right before he went out of office. It was like whoop, they were like gone, and people were like what the?
Which is like insane that you can be like, hey,
yeah, that's
you're
what
a person
I'm saying.
That deserves to have respect. Oh, just kidding. I wrote that in pencil.
Yeah,
and I spilled coffee on it.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though, is these executive orders are essentially pencil.
Yeah.
And so you need it written in ink in these constitutional amendments. That identity is protected as long as it doesn't hurt other people.
Right.
You know? I just don't understand why anything that has to do with somebody's identity or pursuit of happiness, as long as it doesn't hurt anyone else or infringe on anybody else's rights, why is that not protected?
Because people start to view it because people start to view it as like a protected class. It becomes a protected class. And then people start to skew that around and they're like, "Oh, this is no longer a protected class because now I have to legally act this way. I have to legally treat these people like humans now." So, like, it becomes like they're not only protected, but they're actually kind of privileged in society, you know, because I have to treat them that way because of the law. That is the mentality, though. That's what it turns into.
Yeah. No, I do. I see where you're coming from with that thought process and what, like, how people could think that. But in that case, then their beliefs or their identity is infringing on or hurting somebody else, and therefore that's why that one isn't protected exactly. You know what I mean? And I just feel like, I don't know. It seems so clear cut to me. I understand that it's not for everyone, but dang. I wish it was.
I mean, but that's where you have to start when the baseline of what still the baseline is, oh, we own people to build this country. That's what it was, you know. So that's where it started, and now we're here now, and now we're like right on the cusp of like adding in, you know, LGBTQ as well. So, I mean, yeah, it has come a long way, but it is that kind of like mentality that stops it a lot. Like, do we have to keep people? I mean, just. They're just like very reluctant to offer those protections to people. I mean, First time it was offered was in 1965 or whatever. The first time, that was offered. Extended. The protection was extended,
Yep.
I mean,
not to mention, this is not even touching on like people with disabilities and their rights being infringed upon.
Yep.
But we can't possibly do that. Gotta be another protected class. There's too many. There's too many classes. People. Oh my goodness, man.
Well, if we could just say everyone and put a big stamp that said everyone on it without delineating it, it would be great.
It would be great.
Awesome. We would love to do that, but apparently we can't because then people they just try to take advantage of everything.
Yes,
we have to be
because
specific.
because that is how you get ahead in this country. You exploit. That's what we've been taught. Why? There's nothing else. Exploit.
That is true.
But anyway, so what did? I haven't actually read your new article yet. I probably should have done that before this. But like, what was like the general gist of it, or how does it tie into like identity politics still?
So I kind of had 2 points. One of them we talked about a little bit the last time you and I chatted. The first point I had, though, was that I have a close friend who I was talking to recently, and she just really doesn't like labels at all for herself. She does not want to be called anything. She does not in regards to like gender, but other things, or gender identity, other things. There are just other things she doesn't want to label. She doesn't want to be put in a box. She doesn't want people to having a word is very limiting to her, as opposed to for someone like me. I love words. I love vocabulary. Every time I find a new word, I'm like, yes, that's so affirming. I feel so validated. But she she very much just doesn't feel that way. And of course, I'm not telling her she's wrong. She can feel however she wants to feel. But it surprised me, and I thought, wow, that's one of those things that I don't have empathy for, really, because I don't know, I care, I am supportive, but I don't personally have a feeling about it
you're
that
a
matches.
Good person, not like a douche.
Thanks.
But yeah, I can understand.
But yeah, so I mean, it surprised me, and so I thought, okay, that's a thing that I just don't have empathy for. And so then I was trying to think, what are more things that I don't have genuine empathy for because I just haven't experienced them, or I don't have that belief, or I don't have that perspective. And then this is where you and I talked a little bit last time, Jared. I don't have it for religion, and it's not that I am not a person who wants to take anyone down for their religion or make anyone feel bad for having it. I don't want to name call. I don't want to like try to make anyone believe what I believe. I think that religion and faith can be really beautiful and wonderful for people who need it and have it and believe in it. That's great. But I don't believe those things. I have some beliefs about morality and values, but not about like a higher power or about an afterlife or anything like that. And so I don't have true empathy for someone whose identity is really based in religion. And sometimes I think people like us, or people like me at least, who don't have a religion, we tend to not really view it as part of somebody's identity because it's a choice. And most other identity labels are not a choice. But I don't think that it's not. I think it's equally as much a part of somebody's identity, and it's unfair. Like, I spent time talking a little bit in this post about how I need to examine that thought process more. Like, I haven't really gone through and thought about it all completely. I haven't really spent that time, but I know I need to. Realizing and believing that somebody's religious identity and faith and values is as much a part of their overall identity as me being female is to mine. Or some, just because it's a choice for a lot of people doesn't mean it's not equally as valuable to them and to their like perspective. So that's kind of what I was talking about, was just me noticing deficiencies in my own empathy.
Hmm. It's kind of curious too, because I mean, like religion in that way, objectively, yeah, it is a choice. You know, like you choose to believe that. I just find it curious that that's like the main thing, like conversion camps and stuff. That's what they espouse all the time. It's like it's a choice. You can fix it, you know. So it's just curious. But
Oh,
you get, but
you mean like you mean with like LGBTQ people?
the only thing is that you allow um that to be like a integral part of their identity, and you never like question it. You know, like that's the difference. You know, that's the difference. Is that not
There
only
are a
do
lot.
you like, huh?
Sorry.
Oh nope, it's gone.
Oh, okay, I was just gonna say there are a lot of people with religion who don't do that though to people that aren't straight or don't have a
That's true,
cisgendered
and they are popping up
identity.
like more and more. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the other thing, that the reason that I would say it is slightly different still, is that with faith, there is no science that can support it. One of Neil Tyson deGrasse's quotes is, "The thing that's great about science is that it's true whether you believe it or not." And being LGBTQ is scientifically not a choice. It's been proven, and that's true whether you believe it or not. So even though that could be considered a choice by some people who are not as well informed in that regard, overall, that is scientifically proven. There's no science behind a religion, really. I mean, maybe that's I don't know, maybe that's an ignorant thing of me to say, but I don't think that's me being hateful. I mean, the point of religion is faith, not science.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I don't know.
No, that's a pretty accurate statement. Yeah.
I'm not saying the two are completely incompatible. I'm just saying that it's based on faith. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's important to spend time noticing when we don't have empathy for something, though, is all that I'm getting at. I'm not really getting at a religious debate. I don't want to do that with anyone. That's their thing, and I would support them.
Oh yeah.
Unless they're being jerks about it to someone else, then I don't support that. But the biggest thing is that I just was noticing that those are a couple spots where I just really didn't have empathy at all. It'd be like someone, for example, if someone owned a giraffe, I'd be like, I have no idea what that's like. I cannot empathize with that. Fortunately, that's not a huge issue in my life, trying to like find a middle ground or a loving ground with someone, or honestly, it would just be cool. But overall, I just don't have that experience. It's good to notice when you don't have those experiences. It's good to notice when you don't have that empathy, because sometimes we like to put the onus of responsibility on others instead of on ourselves for finding the middle ground. And honestly, it should be a two-way street, but sometimes some of us are better equipped to find the middle ground than other people. And so, I don't know. It's a lot of work, but...
Or, like you were saying earlier, have the skin in the game to actually want to do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But some people don't. And so maybe, you run... Usually I think it happens a lot with family members, not so much friends. Because with friends, if you find out that you two are just completely different in values, you just stop being friends. There doesn't have to be a big fight or anything. You just like drift away in your lives because you don't have the same values and interests and whatever.
Right.
But with family, it happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you have like an aunt or something that you really love, you really appreciate that relationship in your life, but she's like I was gonna say sexist. We'll go with sexist. We'll just say she's sexist. And that's obviously not something that you're okay with. Then we, in our minds, when we feel so like attacked by somebody else's sexist thought, whatever it is, we think, oh, they just need to change. And that's true. That would be ideal. It's just not very likely. So if the relationship is important to you, it's much more likely that you're going to have to do some work to help them move forward closer to you, or you're going to have to do a little bit more work moving yourself closer to them. Either way, it's not going to be the work. They're not going to do that work, probably.
Particularly if they're older than you, too. Or, like, even the same age or older. Yeah, there's no way. I mean, yeah. I agree. Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. It's exhausting to always have to do that work, and so it's good to like recognize and know or spend time thinking about, is this worth it or is it not worth it?
Right.
But sometimes it's going to be worth
it. Yeah, picking your battles for sure. But still something I struggle with, I think, a little bit. Yeah. From being honest. But I don't know.
Well, even here's another example. Coworkers. I have a coworker that I will not even get close to naming or describing, but this person and I have extremely, extremely, extremely different beliefs, and I still really like this person a lot. And so it's unlikely that I'm going to get them to change their thought process in any way. So I have done more to be the example of what I would hope they would be supportive of, and to bring myself kind of closer to them. So hopefully there is that personal connection that would allow them to grow in the future. This would be easier to explain if I could give you any details, but
allow them to grow in what way? What do you mean?
So by having a personal connection with me, someone who believes entirely different things than they do, we are like connected as friends, the two of us. And in the future, if this person runs across anyone else who shares identities with me or beliefs with me, this person will be this much more likely to accept or be loving of those things in that new person that they meet because of the good experience that we've had together.
True.
Does that make sense? It's definitely the long haul. It's the what is that? The long game. It's the long game.
Oh, the long con.
Yes. I mean, it's not really a con, but yes, it's a long thing. At least that's my hope, you know?
Yeah.
Is that me not being a total asshole, me not totally shoving all my everything down the person's throat right now because I believe it so strongly. I obviously do. I think it's better for me in this case and with this person to just be a good person around them, existing with all the identities and labels and beliefs that I have.
Yeah. So
in that case, scenario.
Exactly. So that's actually a perfect segue. Do you think that kind of putting an onus on someone, that ties into like cancel culture too? A lot? Like, oh, that person said something wrong, they have to change. I mean, that's the same shit, right?
Yeah. I mean, sort of, except that with cancel culture, it's sort of eliminating the chance to have that dialogue in the first place. So it kind of depends. It depends, because cancel culture and calling people on their shit are two different things.
Right.
You know?
I have to tap out. I'm exhausted. Sorry.
Okay.
I love you guys.
No, it's okay.
And I can't wait to listen to this portion of this. It's going to be...
Yeah.
I'm actually going to put it on my phone once I leave.
All right, babe.
So, let me collect my thoughts. Cancel culture. Oh, so the difference is if someone's doing something like an action that's super hateful or super hurting someone else, like you have to stop that.
Right.
And that is not as canceling something you don't agree with. Like you are protecting someone in that case, not, you know, it's not like me saying I love pineapple on pizza. I'm that person. But somebody else being like pineapple on pizza doesn't exist. That's canceling, you know? Like it's not, and people are using it in much more dire situations, I guess.
Right. Or
Using
a lot more.
phrase.
Right.
I don't know. You tell me your thoughts on cancel culture. I feel like you've thought about it more than I have.
I've thought about it, but I also just like, sorry, I'm just like screwing with this sound real quick. I also have been kind of like taking a social media break in general, just because I kind of needed it for like mental health stuff. But I see like a lot of the cancel culture that I see actually happens on Twitter, which is like a platform I'm super super unfamiliar with, just because it's Twitter. Like I never really cared, but politics is moving onto Twitter like hard. And it's moving like on Twitter like super fast. So I'm just like, whoa. So it's kind of like hard to keep up with sometimes. But that's where I kind of see it the most. It's like I see the culmination of cancel culture has kind of like metastasized into like the acceptance of online politics. I mean, seriously, that's why I've seen it kind of where it has gone. And now like everyone knows how to play. I think everyone knows how to play around cancel culture now, because you can just like delete entire like Twitter accounts and like you're fine. Just like wash all your stuff. Like there it goes. Like your history is gone, right? So I don't know.
But it doesn't erase the impact of the thing that you said or the thing that happened. You can delete the evidence.
Right. That's true. So I don't know.
It's complicated.
I think that overall I think it had to happen, because there's also been just all the fallout from it from this last year has been interesting to watch as well. And people realizing that we all are talking on like private companies stuff. I mean, it was a good like perspective shift to have, I think. And I think cancel culture was help bring some of that to light. And I don't know, it's rough. It's really tough with this one, because people do tend to like wrap this up into like free speech and stuff too. So that's when it's just like, crap. You know.
Well, overall, in general, I feel personally like I would rather move away from cancel culture in general, because I feel like it devalues real discussions that can happen or
right.
need
It just
to happen.
like it like boils it down into like shouting matches, right? Like you can't.
Yeah.
Like it.
Or
yeah. I mean, because
violence.
Yeah. Inspired violence, exactly. And especially like it's really dangerous. My overall thing is that I do like the fact checking portion of it, and I do like the fact that you can be scrubbed and held accountable for what you say. I would always be down for that, you know. Now, where it gets dangerous is the kind of like mob mentality that also comes along with that. And it unfortunately like
also
Fox. Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, like Fox News keeps on saying Joe Biden's radical left mob or whatever. Like that's just something that that's just part of their rhetoric. I'm just like, oh my god. But I know it's so insane. Anyway, crap. I got so
think of like Dumbledore's army.
Oh, I know. I'm just like, you. What? Radical left
I feel
mob.
like we're in a freaking Harry Potter. Speaking of cancel culture.
But yeah, that's the only thing that scares me about it, is that kind of like mob mentality that can happen. That's super dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super dangerous. And if cancel culture ends up also inspiring violence, that's also super dangerous. I don't agree with that either. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
But like I said, I really do.
I also think
I feel like if it became like a profession almost, and it was like, hey, these are just like professional Twitter fact checkers who operate off of this like information, and they were just like, hey, and they were like the ones who were like starting that, and it was actually on some kind of like official premise. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I do like the
Like
fact
moderators.
checking. Yeah, something like that. I don't know. And it has done a lot of good, and it hasn't cleaned up internet language or cleaned up the internet, but I mean, at least you know at the end of the day that people like what you say. That's the thing. That's what I'll say about it. There was this thing with like almost being on the internet in general. There was like a certain guaranteed level of like anonymity back in the day, even though that really didn't exist back in the day either. But people thought they had it, you know. Um, I like that. You cancel culture is kind of fed into that, um, kind of that mentality as well. As like, look, you can't just do whatever you want, like wherever you want to do it, however you want to do it, you know. And then you can't hide it, like once you do, like, you know, like I don't know.
Some accountability a little bit.
Exactly. Exactly. Because accountability, I mean, is never a bad thing, you know, especially when you can when people are saying things, and if people are their word, then yeah, I mean, then you should be empirically held to your word. And I think that's the biggest takeaway for me, is that with this kind of stuff, like when you type it out and you put it on the internet, I mean, that is like very much nearly perfect. I mean, sorry, not perfect, permanent, you know? I mean, the optics of that are like it's almost even more important than like real life optics at this point. Like your digital optics are almost like more important than like real life optics somehow, some crazy ways. In some ways, you know. So,
And it depends on how you're living your life.
well, it also
There are lots
depends
of
on how
people
much
who live
you expose on social media too, or what you use it for. But anyway, that's a whole thing. But
a whole another. But hey, we got started a little bit late today. On a short, but I do have to get rolling.
oh, okay, yeah, absolutely. No, it's good. I think I'll probably have to delve a little bit more into cancel culture next time, because now I'm curious, because I want to like be able to like pick different examples next time and be like, I like this, I like this, I like this, but then this is like what went too
Compare,
far, and then, huh?
compare, contrast.
Yeah, and then maybe I don't know, because that's how I always reach conclusions. I guess with things, it's just like, well, maybe if I like eliminate it down to like this, maybe then something will reveal itself, you know. But anyway, I don't want to keep you. I knew it was a late start, but it was fun though.
All
That was
good.
good talking to you.
Yeah,
And I miss you.
glad to see you. I know I miss you.
I
I
know.
miss you both.
All right.
Stay warm.
All right.
Bye.
Talk again soon. Bye bye.